Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. Today's episode is going to be a little different than most of my videos, as it's going to be heavy with interviews and quotes. As you can see by the thumbnail, I've got my one-on-one interview with NASCAR Truck Series driver Toni Breidinger, where we talk about the 2025 season, her rookie campaign, and how she'd grade herself through the first 10 races. And then she takes us behind the scenes of working as a model in the Sports Illustrated Swimsuit Issue, including what it's like shooting photos in a tropical storm. Plus, this week I was on several calls, first with the Prime team promoting the next 5 Cup Series races on the streaming service, and I had a couple specific questions for Steve Letarte and Carl Edwards. And then yesterday I was on a call with Ryan Blaney, and I asked the 2023 champion a question about some interesting remarks he'd made earlier in the day on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio and his thoughts on the short track package. Let's start with the conference call with the Prime team. As you guys all know, I have been less than thrilled by Fox's coverage throughout this season and over the course of the last several seasons. I haven't hidden that fact. So I've been really looking forward to A, getting away from Fox, and B, trying something new. I've sung the praises of the Max in-car cameras this year, besides that one hiccup when the audio wasn't working, because I'm all for giving fans the most insightful and informative coverage. The Max cameras are great because they give you an inside look on all 36 cars with their team radios, but then the graphics themselves, including the scoring pylon, are clear-cut and accurate. Looking at you, Fox. Now, with Prime, I've been envisioning them doing something similar as to what they do on their Thursday night football coverage, where they provide a variety of stats or features throughout the game that you don't typically find anywhere else. Like when a defensive alert or red circle appears on the screen around a specific player, indicating fans should focus on what he does. How that translates into NASCAR coverage isn't clear because the Prime folks wouldn't share specifics on the call. However, they did say they would bring some new features to the broadcast and try to provide stats that simplify the often complex strategies in play during a race. There were various members of the Prime team on the call, including on-air personalities, Steve Letarte, Carl Edwards, and Corey LaJoie. I asked Letarte my first question, and it was about his friend and broadcast partner Dale Earnhardt Jr., who he didn't work with all of last season. And what did he look forward to most reuniting with Jr.?
Well, I'm excited that the stream of text messages that I've gotten for the last year while I was in the booth, now he could just say loudly over the microphone, and I won't have to read those as I'm commentating. Look, NASCAR, we're blessed to have the biggest race fan in the world also be the most popular driver and also be a Hall of Famer, and it's really that simple. I love to make it more complicated, but it really isn't. And Dale and I, while we didn't work together last year, I don't think you'd find it shocking. We still spend quite a bit of time together, and we talk a lot. We talk a lot about the races and the storylines, and we our analysis of what's happening. We actually kick off, bounce off one another to make sure we're kind of thinking it the same way. Whether he'll call me before he goes on his pod, or I'll call him on a Saturday morning before we go in the booth for practice back in the NBC days. So I'm just excited to be able to kind of work with him. We're very good friends. It's very perhaps too comfortable. Poor Adam's going to have to wrangle us together, which is going to be a full-time job to say the least. But, while his podcast and his Dirty Mo stuff is great, I think the fans deserve to see him on network coverage, right? To have it on the main coverage of the races. And I think having him on Prime is going to be fun. And selfishly, I'm just excited I get to work with him again. The years I had on the pit box were amazing, and the years in NBC were just a lot of fun. So selfishly, it's going to be just that. I think it's going to be a lot of fun while we get to cover the races we would be watching anyway and texting about. Now our conversations just turn into public conversations.
I'm personally looking forward to these two sharing those conversations with us during the broadcast. Next up, I asked Carl Edwards, after being away from the sport for years, what were his feelings returning to the sport on a platform like Prime?
I think Steve just said it really well. It's just the general, you're hearing it from everyone. It's the level of excitement. Danielle sent a text this morning. I mean, she is just pumped. Everybody's ready to go to the racetrack and be a part of all this. And so for me, it's coming back to the sport, seeing everybody, falling in love with racing again. And then the job that I'm most excited about is being able to describe the magic that these drivers are able to perform, in these cars, and to be able to talk about what it's like to be in the race car and to bring those stories out of all these amazing drivers. So just a great group, a lot of really cool races, starting with the Coke 600, and hopefully it's just a lot of fun.
Coverage for the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway starts at 6 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. And a couple of things that I know you're going to love about the coverage. There will be side-by-side box commercials for Green Flag Racing. Yes, you heard that right. We won't miss any Green Flag Racing action for the next 5 races. And lastly, there will be a 45-minute post-race show after each race. 2 things Fox never came close to doing, so I'm really looking forward to this weekend's race. Moving on to yesterday's conference call with Team Penske driver of the number 12 car, Ryan Blaney. He was asked plenty of questions about the upcoming race this weekend, including the mental side of going through a 600-mile race. But I wanted to ask him about what I had heard him say earlier in the day on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I think it just was a good short track. You know, we've talked for a long time about like, oh, this short track package isn't that good and this and that, yada, yada. But honestly, like it's not that bad. I don't feel like it's as bad as people think it is. And, you know, when you have a track like North Wilkesboro that pretty much had 3+ lanes of area to go, that definitely helps it out. When you have an area like that and a track that racy. And I thought, you know, some tire strategy kind of came into the end of it, which always kind of mixes some things up. But no, I think the track being as wide as it was definitely helps that stuff out.
I was listening to your appearance this morning on SiriusXM, and you talked about how people have said the short track package isn't that good, but you said it's not as bad as people think it is. So does this weekend at North Wilkesboro kind of prove that? And what do you think the reason for it was? Because it wasn't last year nearly as racy. So what do you attribute to the change in the raciness this year of North Wilkesboro?
Yeah. I mean, hey, don't get me wrong. The short track package can definitely be better. There's always things we can do to get it better. I think why you saw a really good race at North Wilkesboro was the track, and even compared to last year at North Wilkesboro, like the track was a little bit wider, I thought, this year than last year. So it just gave you more options, more lanes to search around and get clean air. I just wish that this car would work better and not as clean air, you know, like where you don't need a full like lane or 3/4 of a lane of clean air to kind of get it. I wish it was like more a quarter of a lane of clean air, you'll be fine. So I just think the track got wider, and I think that's one of the biggest things. And you know, a lot of these short tracks that we go to really don't have that wide of racing surfaces, I don't think. You know, like, you know, Martinsville, where you're kind of feeding on the curb, it's where it's hard to get clean air. You know, Richmond, we run around a little bit, but the fastest lane's on the bottom. Bristol is like 2 lanes, either the bottom or the very top. So it's just hard to find clean air at some of these places. But Wilkesboro had, you know, 3-4 different lanes that you can kind of search around and find out where you need to go. And I think that's why you saw a pretty good race there.
Really interesting to hear about why North Wilkesboro is different from the other short tracks. And I have to agree with what so many others have said after what we saw on Sunday. I think it should definitely be considered for a points-paying race in the future. All right, and now it's time for our last item for the day, and it's my interview with Toni Breidinger. Hey, Toni, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so before we talk about the swimsuit issue and this season, I want to go back to last year. You and I followed you around at the Raising Cane's across the street from Daytona when they opened it up, and we were just talking about a variety of things, but one of the things I asked you was, do you have any plans for next season? And you said, yeah, in a few weeks, we'll be announcing something. Well, 10 months later, 10 races into the 2025 NASCAR Truck Series schedule, you're a rookie. So talk to me about this experience over these last 10 races. Is it what you expected?
Yeah, yes and no. I feel like I had a good idea of what to expect going into it, but from a competition standpoint, there's so many new things that I've learned that I didn't even think was possible to learn, because I guess you just don't know what you don't know. So I've been learning a lot more than what I expected to, but it's all exciting and it's all good stuff. And yeah, really just trusting the process. But yeah, it's been a very surreal few months for sure. Just it's been chaotic on you know, the appearances and events I've been going to, but also like the race stuff. But I love being busy, so it's been really fun for me.
So when you look at the 10 races in, how would you grade your season thus far?
Yeah, personally, I'm probably my toughest critic, so I would not give myself a very good rating, honestly. There's things that every weekend I set smaller goals for myself, and I'll say, okay, did I improve on this? So Yeah, I mean, I think there's things that I do well at every weekend, but I also am like, okay, well, I made a mistake here, or I feel like I need to improve here. So I'm definitely my biggest critic. I don't think I'll ever be happy, even if I do, and I don't think I'll be happy. I'll still be nitpicking myself.
Right. So last year, when we were at the Canes in Daytona, I
Yeah.
asked you about there are certain drivers that are more aggressive with their female counterparts. And
Yeah.
you talked about that very openly and transparently about that. So tell me about this season. Have you experienced something similar, or has it been pretty clean? Do you feel like everybody just races, they're just racers and they respect you as a race car driver? Doesn't matter the gender.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the truck series has been pretty clean this year. I feel like we really haven't even like on was it Saturday that we raced. I mean, there really wasn't all that many wrecks. So I feel like the season itself has been very clean. I mean, I do feel like some people like this past race at North Wilkesboro, I feel like I got put in spots that I don't typically see my teammates getting put in. And whether that's me being a female or just being a rookie in the series, it could go either way. So I do see myself being put in certain spots that some of my other more experienced competitors aren't put in. But I do think, that comes down to me just earning that respect for my competitors and showing them that, I can be up there and racing with them and they don't need to kind of check me out.
Okay, so since you are a full-time driver, you get to experience the cup drivers coming down. So it's Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
two Hall of Famers, right, in the future. So I'm just curious what it's like for you when you get to see and race against these two guys who are going to be in the Hall of Fame that are the greatest drivers. Kyle Busch is arguably one of the greatest drivers ever. What it's like racing around them. What do you try to learn from them? Just tell me about that experience.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually around Kyle Busch, racing around him this past weekend, which was really cool because he's also very talented in the truck series. So I was trying to watch everything he did and see, like, when he was trying to pass somebody in front of me. So I was trying to analyze, like, okay, like, what's his thought process trying to get around this person? Honestly, I was like, it'd be cool to pass him, but my intentions was kind of like to at least learn a little bit and kind of study a bit from him. But it was very cool. I honestly didn't realize he was the one that was trying to pass me. And then I saw like the name on the back of his truck. I'm like, oh, Kyle Busch. That's cool.
Okay, so this season, I was listening to your radio on Saturday at North Wilkesboro, and right
Yeah.
at the very beginning, it seemed like something happened, like you got loose and you got shucked back. What kind of share with me that experience? Because the replay really didn't convey what happened right at the start of the race.
Yeah, yeah. The truck whoever started behind me just ran into the back of me, which I mean, I understood if I overslowed, but I really didn't. At that point, we were all pretty tight. And I drove it in there just like everyone else. So that was frustrating me. I think that was just probably much misjudgment on their part. But yeah, it was like, it's not really a fun way to start the race. But thankfully, nothing really bad came of it, just lost some spots.
Okay. So then fast forwarding to the end of the race, and I was listening and I heard you say you talked about you had made some mistakes. And
Yeah.
so when I think about it, I've also talked to Frankie Muniz this year. And so it's all about that's a developmental series, the truck series. So what do you take away when you go into a race? What are you learning? Because you are going to make mistakes. I mean, is that kind of the goal each race is what can I learn from this specific track, racing around these same drivers each race?
Yeah, I mean, making mistakes isn't always negative as long as you're learning from it and improving. So yeah, I definitely always, after races, I'll, take my notes and write down what did I learn? What did I see out there? What did I feel? And really just building my notebook for next season. Because I feel like that's where it's gonna be really useful is, obviously every track is so different on the schedule. So it's not like I can take a whole bunch away from North Wilkesboro and apply it to Charlotte, but I'm really building my notebook. So for next season, when I go back to these tracks, I'll have some references and something to build off of.
So are you telling me that you have a ride for next season?
I'm not. I was thinking in my head as I'm saying that. No, I do not have a confirmed ride for next year yet.
Okay.
But hopefully manifesting it.
Okay. I know we've talked about manifesting in the
Yeah.
past, so I appreciate that. Okay, so let's switch gears and let's talk about last week. The big news was the swimsuit edition of Sports Illustrated. Just talk to me about, the experience itself, because I know you've done the Victoria's Secret walking the runway modeling. What about this experience? Kind of tell me, where was it? Where did it take place? Because I obviously seemed like a beach setting. How
Yeah.
long did it take? Just talk to me about kind of those different points of the shooting of the issue.
Yeah, so we actually shot it, I want to say last November. So it's been a while, but we shot in Boca in Florida. So yeah, we had that beach setting, and it was actually a very stormy day for me. It wasn't a very pretty day in Florida. It's like a literal tropical storm.
Okay.
But I mean, the photos still turned out great. But it was kind of funny because I was like, I didn't see the photos until everyone else saw them, so I had no idea what these photos looked like, and I just knew like on set it was like really fun. Everybody made me feel so confident, everyone was so uplifting, but I knew that the wind was attacking me the entire time and my hair was attacking my face. I was like, oh gosh, what are these photos going to be? But very surreal experience. Everyone was so amazing on set, and I mean the lineup of other athletes and women that I am with in the magazine is really really cool to be a part of that with them. It's honestly an honor.
Well, so you talk about the other athletes. So I'm just curious, there's athletes, there's models. So do you gravitate to the athletes, or are y'all all on the set together? How does that work?
Yeah, so we all had our own kind of days to shoot. So I only ran into one of the other athletes on my shoot day because she had her fitting while I was shooting. So we were kind of like cycling through, I guess. So I really didn't run into many when we were shooting. But at the celebration last week, they had a toast before. So I had a chance to meet a lot of the girls, which was very fun. And I had a chance to talk to them because I follow a lot of them on Instagram and I'll comment on their posts and support them. But it was cool to actually be able to chat with them a little bit and get to know them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. I saw that there was a launch party last week, and then
Yeah.
when you posted the photos on your Instagram, I think it was Suni Lee and maybe some other folks
Yeah.
responded. So, kind of, did you develop any relationships? I mean, any of these models? Obviously, you're in the swimsuit edition, but Livy Dunn, obviously, she's got a
Yeah.
background in sports. Suni Lee, as I mentioned, I think it was there were several others. Did you communicate? I mean, do you have like a bond with them, a unique bond because you're athletes and you're coming into this edition?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think all the girls were so amazing, whether they were athletes or models or whatever their background was. So I mean, I enjoy talking to everybody. I feel like it's just fun to also just meet people outside of your industry a little bit. So I always love going to these events because it gives me an opportunity to talk about things other than motorsports and just get to know other people and branch out a little bit. But yeah, I do feel like I do tend to gravitate towards the athletes a little bit, just a little bit more common ground there. But I love getting to know everybody and talking to everyone. And everyone was seriously so sweet. It was a very girls, empowering kind of night.
Well, talk to me about that. You mentioned the empowering because I was going to ask you, because I know when we talked about the first time I spoke to you last year, you talked about the empowerment of being a Victoria's Secret model. So
Yeah.
just specifically tell me, what does it mean being in the Sports Illustrated Swimsuit edition?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was an honor. I mean, if you look at the legacy of the other women and athletes who have been in it before me and the current ones who are in this issue, to be in that lineup with them is very surreal. They're all very successful and they all inspire me. So to be included in that is really special.
All right, last question for you, Tony. If
Yeah.
given the opportunity, would you do it again?
Oh, Sports Illustrated?
Yes.
Oh, 100%. Sign me up for next year. Yeah, I would do it again.
Okay. Well, hey, I appreciate you joining me, taking the time to visit with me about your season, about the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue. I wish you the best of luck the rest of the Truck Series season, and maybe we'll
Thank
talk
you.
together. We'll talk again down the road. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Tony. Take care.
Alrighty, bye.
Bye bye. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's interview heavy episode. There weren't a lot of topics, but I still want to hear what you thought about them. First, what do you think about Steve Letarte reuniting with Dale Jr. this weekend on Prime? Second, what do you think of Carl Edwards joining the team? I really think he's going to be a great addition. And what did you think about Ryan Blaney's comments on the short track package not being as bad as people say it is? Are you in favor of North Wilkesboro becoming a points-paying race in the future? And finally, let me know your thoughts on my interview with Toni Breidinger. How would you grade her rookie season thus far? Thanks as always for checking out the latest video and supporting the channel. I really and truly appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.